Russia, Soviet weapons are running out. This is how North Korea keeps Putin's war alive. Once upon a time, there were T-72 tanks as a symbol of Soviet power. Today, more than 2 years after the start of the war in Ukraine, the Russian giant is creaking and running to Moscow's rescue. Between containers and missiles is an unexpected but faithful ally, North Korea. From the Russian steppes to the Sea of Japan, a silent and deadly axis is strengthened. The flow of weapons from Soviet-era depots, which had been feeding the Ukrainian front steadily since 2022, is rapidly drying up. The data processed by the Institute of the Kiev School of Economics and reported by the Financial Times speak for themselves. From 242,000 tons of military material handled in 2022, it will drop to 119,000 in 2025. Almost half, a clear sign that the reserve is running out. Pavlo Shkurenko, an analyst at the KSE Institute, has no doubts. Moscow today sends less material than the repair centers could handle. The most valuable equipment has already been recovered. In short, the bottom of the barrel is near. Yet on the ground, the Russian artillery is not silent. The reason has a name written in Cyrillic and Korean characters. Pyongyang is Putin's new arsenal, North Korean containers containing explosives, ammunition, and even ballistic missiles. Today account for 52% of the explosive material shipped to Russian arsenals in 2024. Before the war, there were zero. Today we are talking about 250,000 tons that left the Nakhodka region, a port overlooking the Sea of Japan, a real military bridge. According to South Korean intelligence services, North Korea has already sent 28,000 containers to Russia. Inside, ammunition, artillery pieces, and even troops. It is not just a question of ideological solidarity, but of mutual convenience. Pyongyang obtains currency and technology. Moscow, ammunition to continue a war of attrition. The T-72s and T-80s, projects from the 70s, continue to be deployed on the Ukrainian front. Even T-54s have been sighted, dating back to the Stalin era. A war déjà vu that smacks of desperation, while the Kremlin tries to square a war machine with spare parts that are increasingly difficult to find. According to Kirilo Budanov, head of Ukrainian military intelligence, 40% of Russian ammunition comes from North Korea. Numbers also confirmed by the logistical analysis of the KSE, which identifies 13,000 tons of explosives from the Caspian Sea region, probably of Iranian origin. But there is also another player that plays a more subtle game: China. Beijing, while avoiding direct supplies of lethal weapons, has practically doubled the volumes of material sent to Russian defense industries, over 3 million tons from 2021 to date. They don't send bullets, but they send everything you need to produce them, explains Lucas Reisinger, a researcher at KSE. Russia's reaction to Trump's tariff. The recent decision by President Donald Trump to impose new tariffs on several BRICS nations has stirred significant reactions. Despite this aggressive move, the Kremlin has reiterated the BRICS bloc's commitment to cooperation rather than confrontation. Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesperson, emphasized that BRICS, comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, was established to foster cooperation among emerging economies for mutual benefit, not to oppose other states. In a strategic move, BRICS has expanded its membership as of July 2025, including nations like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, UAE, and Indonesia. This expansion underscores the bloc's focus on economic cooperation rather than confrontation. The inclusion of these countries aims to strengthen economic ties and enhance collaborative efforts, reinforcing the bloc's commitment to mutual growth and development. Trump's tariff strategy, targeting India and Brazil. Trump's new tariffs include a 25% duty on Indian imports starting August 1st and a 50% increase on Brazilian imports. These measures are part of his strategy to restore American manufacturing and prevent what he perceives as exploitation by trade partners. Although Russia is currently exempt from reciprocal tariffs, there are looming threats of future tariffs, reflecting the ongoing tension in international trade relations. India's economic ties with Russia, a point of contention. The core of Trump's friction with Russia is evident in his criticism of other countries' economic relations with Moscow, particularly India. Trump's administration, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, has expressed frustration over India's continued purchase of Russian crude oil and military equipment. They argue that these purchases directly fund Russia's war efforts in Ukraine, labeling India as not a great global player for its role in the sanctioned oil trade. In his public statements, Trump has been vocal in his criticism of Russia and India. On Truth Social, he dismissed India's actions with Russia, suggesting that they can drag their dead economies together. He also described India's membership in BRICS as an irritant, accusing the group of being anti-American and attempting to undermine the US dollar, despite no such intentions being expressed by BRICS nations. Despite Trump's direct criticisms and tariff pressures, Russia, through BRICS, remains steadfast in its commitment to economic cooperation and mutual benefit. The bloc's official stance is to avoid confrontation, focusing instead on strengthening economic ties and collaborative efforts among its members. This approach highlights the complex interplay of global trade policies and the importance of diplomatic engagement in resolving trade disputes.